Okay, cool. I'm gonna do a little bit of rape. It's only right. Rape is shamanic snuff, so we're gonna set the intention that we're in the same room together. We're gonna be channeling Quetzalcoatl, Aztec creator god of wisdom, light, the west, the wind. Taking a deep breath. I'm going to transmit the rape to you. It's a warrior rape that comes from Peruvian tribes. All right, so how this works, if you were not here for previous episodes and stuff, is essentially we are going to just like try to keep our mics muted, and unless you know you're going to ask a question, I usually start off, I open up the frequency, and then you guys will just have to feel out, like, you know, when it's your turn to ask a question. If you guys don't ask any questions, like, I'm pretty good at asking questions because this is what I do. But I do want you guys to get what you want. So usually your guides, the guides that I channel will tell me, you know, this is the end of the question. Like, this might the end of my answer to your question. And then when that happens, like, I'll try to keep the floor open. If no one speaks up, then I'll just go on with my way. The other thing too is try not to hog. Like, if we can do like one question at a time, so that way, you know, people could have it. That's great. Everyone has a question, but if you know you're the only person that has a ton of questions, you know it's like no one else is talking, then go ahead. I mean, like, the floor is yours. What was the last thing I wanted to say to that before we got started? I think that's pretty much it for now. I used earlier in my Mikao Usui channeling my sort of light. I don't really feel like I need anything right now other than, like, I'm really feeling like I want dice in my hands. So I'm gonna have a black and this is a white regular die. Sometimes these types of mediums are very helpful for us and understanding and channeling because they kind of like give you an added bonus to channeling. So what I'm going to try to do with these episodes when I channel is kind of like give you a small tip here and there on how you can facilitate your way of channeling with the guides yourself. I could make a whole course about this, but it's mostly based off of experience, and it's kind of like a practice. Is like some people you can channel like bam right off the bat, no sweat, and then other people are like, whoa, it's gonna take me like forever, or they never answer, and it's all because of like vibration. So with each episode that I do of these, I'm gonna go ahead and try to just give you snippets so you can start practicing it on your own. And I'm gonna try to do I do these kind of spontaneously because of the fact that everything's like, for me, everything's like vibration. So like today I'm channeling a lot of like life energy. I've been doing I'm technically on a vacation, right? But I'm not really on a vacation. I'm doing like this intensive coaching thing, and like it's intense. I'm meditating 8 hours a day. I did so like the last 2 days and like really diving in there. So um, I don't know. I just like, because of the last 2 days, I just feel like, whoa, like I'm taking really control over my life. And then when I saw people posted like Usui Reiki, and then I saw people posted like Quetzalcoatl, I was just kind of like really feeling that vibe. And I was like, wow, I got to do this today. Right. And So I am going to try to be a little bit less impulsive, because I know like some people don't necessarily always have enough time to like jump on these randomly, or you know, formulate other questions. So one of the things I'm going to really tell you guys is, when it comes to yourself, like if you want to put someone into the queue to get channeled, at least make sure you have all your questions put together, because it's going to be like useful for you later when I actually do channel them. And I might even create like a itinerary for channeling. So I'm done rambling. I just want to kind of like give you guys a heads up as to what to expect for the future. I'm sitting underneath my eye pyramid. So make sure it's on. Yeah, okay. All right, so we're all in the same room. We're gonna see ourselves sitting in a circle. And unlike our earlier session today, where we channeled Usui was human for the most part, like that incarnation that we summoned. So the vibration was very like, ooh, peaceful. But I'm assuming that Quetzalcoatl is going to be like more dense and intense, as I'm like vibing in on him, almost like Kundalini-ish energy. So remember just to breathe out whatever it is that you might be experiencing, because chances are, since he is a winged serpent god, he will be like triggering like serpentry inside of you, which would be the Kundalini. And it's very also similar to other Egyptian gods that are winged serpents. So it's safe to say that Quetzalcoatl is some form of avian. All together now, we gracefully ask Quetzalcoatl to step forth and bless us with his wisdom. Hello, Quetzalcoatl. I am here to be a medium for my tribe. They wish to have communications with you, as some of them have been channeling you most recently. We are also in the year of Rahu, and this year your wisdom would be actually very beneficial for all of us. So we would like to take a second to really thank you for just like taking the time. Well, I mean, for you it's not even time, but like just taking the opportunity to grace us with your presence, because I know you could be probably doing like a million other things, literally. Okay, so he comes up right off the bat, kind of like he doesn't really like talking about earthly matters, and if you guys can not ask him essentially like basic questions about life in general, he'd be really appreciative of that. But like, he still tells you not to temper yourself if you're not sure about the question. He will try to communicate whether or not this is a question he chooses to answer or not. So this is real. He's not going to answer all your questions if he doesn't feel like it needs to be answered. He says, and like he's like kind of, he's here, but it's taking me a second to like vibrate with him. I'll just verbatim channel mouthpiece until he steps into my body completely. He says, I am creator God, snake of the winds, lord of the heavens, father of the earth. I am the Lord of light, the Lord of, and now I'm here to speak You may now ask your first question. Okay, hold up. So I want to ask the first question really fast because somebody asked a really juicy question earlier on in our temple, and Quetzalcoatl, after researching you, a lot of like a few of us were kind of like, aren't you very similar to Thoth? And I kind of like got the answer earlier, but I would like to hear your perspective on this, please. I, Quetzalcoatl, am not Thoth, though Thoth and I are one. Our individual frequencies have met each other under the same understanding, though Thoth focused in the Egyptian sector of the world, where I focus more so in the Southern Americas. The similarities that we both share are because we know each other well. And we have worked terms and incarnations to understand the same principal rules of the universe. Though Thoth carries a knowledge that I do not, for Thoth has had a thirst to understand things that do not yet interest me. I am no less, no different, but entirely separate from your understanding of the personality and messages that Thoth and I share. In some essences, you may combine the understanding of Thoth and myself, and all will be known under the gaze of light and mentality. So like you're saying, like basically connecting, like we can alchemically merge two consciousnesses together to like understand mentalism, because I saw like the Kabbalion when you said that. Yes, in a way you can understand this as so, not entirely for the scriptures that you understand. Okay, so like you wouldn't, if you've read the Kabbalion, you wouldn't relive or redigest what you already know from the Kabbalion. Like secret chat of the Kabbalah. Is all you have to share for that question? Yes, that is all. Okay. So somebody else can go ahead and ask a question. The floor is open.
Hello. So recently I realized like how your like perception of things is somehow like your entire reality. And so like I just saw like how you like it's all you. Like I just realized it's all just me. But somehow like you're not alone because there's other beings and there's other higher consciousness. But like you are at the same time because it's all you. You know? So how is that possible if like you are like not alone, or how can you because like when there's anger, it's just it's just your darkness. It's not that person is like it's not that person is making you angry. It's that there's something in that person that you don't like, and so there's anger arises. So but like at the same time you're still infinitely connected to everything. So you know what I'm trying to say? Like how is it possible that we can be connected to everything but still
Finish, because he's saying he wanted to answer and say like he finished because he was just trying to tell you like he's following your train of thought, but he didn't understand the exact question.
Yeah, so like how can you be connected to everything but also still be like like alone, because it's your perception, like it's your universe. So how can you be still connected to everything and still like it's your universe? Like how do other beings enter your universe? I guess I still don't. Yeah.
I understand the complexities of your question. The best way to understand the base principle behind what you seek is to understand the illogicality of reality. Creation in the human mind under this perception of reality, it is normal to allow yourself to be a victim of only seeing under this light. The elements, for instance, can be everywhere and individualized all at once. Space exists everywhere, as subtle as it is in everything. You do not question the interconnectedness of the singularity that is space, but you see its division in everything that you know in this current reality. Similar to the wind can easily exist in one breath on one side of the globe, but still encompass the planet and be in another breath on the opposite side of the globe. The illogicality is trying to understand how the dream actually functions, for that will allow you to be a victim of the dream. The dream does not have to make sense. The dream just simply has to exist, be observed, and be obeyed under the base principles of the reality in which you seek to understand it from. All levels of understanding follow once you trust in the chaotic nature of creation itself. Your soul, under certain dogmas, has been understood as a mirror being perpetually reflected. Similarly, the subconscious can do the same thing. The soul and the subconscious are one, yet they are equally separate. Every person that you perceive, indeed, is only a reflection of yourself. But each variation, every person, is an internalized universe, individualized, experiencing itself through you as well. The illogicality comes at the event horizon, when both these individualized infinities meet to create a third. All intersecting points of each infinity will always equate to the 369 series of the cosmos. This is a fundamental principle that must be understood as mentalism, seeing things for how they are and what they have yet to be through thought. The subconscious unconscious, understanding how everything is, everything has been, and everything will be, regardless of understanding, perception, or universal obligation. And 9, the complete emptiness of non-existence. In this exact moment, you exist within a dream within counterparts of yourself, experiencing yourself because thou chooses not to be lonely. When you see an internalized resonance in another that triggers you to react negatively or densely, as you may understand, indeed it is only a reflection of yourself, but it is also the experience of an intelligent infinity taking its own form so that then it can also transmit the grander understanding of source that is. Everyone take a deep breath. And relax. In this exact moment, you are in existence and you are non-existence, similar to everyone else that exists as a counterpart of their individualistic dream and the collective dream. To be a creator is to be a co-creator. Co-creation creates with ease. To be within non-existence, you can then create from nothingness. To understand concepts similar to samadhi, and concepts of Buddhism, tied to concepts of the soul, would allow you to see how the dream itself must be observed as complete logicality and complete nonsense. It is only those who can see both that can truly call themselves gods, for all creation then becomes simultaneous with everything that is and everything that has yet to be. No other way can I take to give you this understanding other than for us to sit down and experience the power of both. I invite you to allow me to take over your root chakras, your solar plexus chakras, your crown chakras, and your shaman chakras. Allow yourself to understand the illogicality of time. Allow yourselves to understand the non-understanding of the illogicality. That is to say, to understand that time exists, does not exist, and that the meaning behind either is both important and non-important. Allow yourself to see that life and death are one and the same. That existence and non-existence are perpetually within the same variable. In this flash instance, we exist, another dies. Those who have been existing. Allow yourself to see your mind's eye, within the solar plexus. Under the understanding that I find within Excel, your understanding would be the solar plexus is your mind. That your third eye holds the mind's eye. But is the illogicality a separation that does not allow you to see the unity within your words? The mind's eye would not be just located at the third eye, for the solar plexus controls the mind. Then you would have your third eye. But the dream controls the perception in which the third eye sees and the mind processes. So your shaman chakra would also have a mind's eye. All these allow you to see a greater truth, but all of those eyes only ever equate to one. And that one unison portion of self is non-existent because it is not perceived within the universe. Its non-existence is the denial in which this dimension has not allowed you to naturally evolve with this organ as a physical manifest. In a way, it exists only for those who understand that its creation is readily available. For all others, it is plainly non-existent. In this similar fashion, you understand the duality of which you seek to understand. Duality always comes back to the cross center of infinity itself. The event horizon when two logical and illogical formats meet as one to create many. Separation is an illusion just as much as oneness is. So what is the point of the universe? I hear many of you ask. That is all. Next question. That you just said was kind of like left on what seems to be a cliffhanger. Did you do that intentionally? Yes, I did. For what you seek to understand is an a logical logicality that could never be fully explained with something as limited as words, something as linearly closed as vibration. And something as simple as thought. What do you mean, like linearly closed in vibration? The human mind has a base threshold for the vibrations in which they yet have to understand and have begun understanding in this timeline and in all times stuck in the third dimension. There are no other parallel Earths that have mastered this just yet, other than one. And that one is illogically distant from this current reality. The manifest is here, but yet nowhere simultaneously. So is that because there's only one parallel Earth that could technically have that answer? Entirely. Anybody else have a question? Because I'm kind of like, If no one else has a question, you can ask another if you did. If not, I'm thinking of one too. Trying to think of one. How does Rudy's question kind of like play into the greater scope of like creation under your understanding of how you come to like create what you've created in the timelines where you're most dominant? I do not understand the illogicality of your question. Why is my question illogical when your answer was like not even fully logical? Because you're answering me an illogical question with illogical responses. So how am I supposed to know the contents of the universe then? Your own understanding unlocks the full potential of any understanding that you choose to hold in the universe. Okay, so how would you find one of those? Like, I mean, that looks like, I don't know, like it could be a million other things. So like, how do you hone in on one of those things to make it happen? You have to understand your internal structure when it comes to your mind's eye. Many humans force themselves to understand how patterns of the past have come to influence them within the future, when both past and present and that which has yet to be is simultaneous and non-existent all at the same time. When you look at the past is easily malleable. It can be changed. It can be distorted. It can be replaced. It can be abandoned. It is only those who choose not to obey this potential that allow themselves to be slaves to the greater understanding of their illusion. What do you mean by like greater understanding of their illusion? Like, wouldn't be the greater understanding of the cosmos or like, you know, how to get out of the illusion? Not entirely. The answer to which you are actually asking for is understanding the mastery of one's self-created reality. Every pattern that's been created in the geometric universe, or what you seem to call a hologram, is only a perception of a gigantic truth that can take whatever form the illogical, logical mind chooses to embrace in its totality. So I mean, that makes sense. I mean, we understand that on our end, anything's, if you believe it, what everything is, believe it or feel it, of attraction and mysticism, not entirely. Only those who will to influence their inception of manifestation are those who will be forced to abide to the law of attraction. So you're saying that like magnetism has nothing to do with the law of attraction. Like if I chose today to be like, fuck the law of attraction, like what happens to create thereafter? So then how would I like, would just like a natural new law of attraction model like show up and like replace what I just deleted? Like it would obviously not be called the law of attraction. I mean, it would still have to be a law, right? Not entirely. It would still have to be a program though, right? Not either. So it would just be like what, the void in its full creation? It would be the void in its full potential. The problem with the human mind is that the void will naturally take shape to the most immediate thought and belief system that the individual holds within the third dimension. It would have to take a large amount of focus and being adept in one's soul to understand the event horizon would instantaneously create an alternate substitution that one would not even perceive to have taken place. So like if you were able to attain this, you would then like step into like zero. But the moment your consciousness kicked in, you would then instantaneously manifest whatever that consciousness like booted up with. Yes, exactly. So like you would have to figure out a way to be completely unconscious and unaware, and then instantaneously boot yourself up into the exact paradigm that you wanted to be in, that then would say like the law of attraction doesn't even exist in that reality. That reality already exists, is the perception of shifting that you truly seek. I know how to quantum shift. It has nothing to do with quantum shifting. I mean, I'm so lost. You're breaking my head, man. Anybody have another question?
If I have a perception of healing without involving any type of recurrence, as long as it's been downloaded previously, without setting intentions of any kind, but having a strong desire to serve the higher good, the healing will be there regardless.
What is your question?
Is that a correct perception?
Only if you allow it to be. Only if you allow it to be. Your perception is only as strong and or limited as your creation has allowed it to be. In some parallel Earths and creations, the simple thought is the entire mechanism that enacts a shift in reality. Those are the beings you would understand to be the manifestors that seem to be like gods. A simple motion of thought would recreate and reorganize the matter, and which would be affecting any individual regardless of healing or pure movement. Your healing modality is not flawed, but it is not entirely sound, as your perception could increase to open more doors on which you are perpetually operating at the highest good of all. But I remind you that it is not the highest good of all that takes precedence before the highest good of self. The highest good of self, under many perceptions and most immediate perceptions, can be seen as egotistical and selfish in terms of ascension. But back to the original question on which we had opened with another member. Everybody take a deep breath. I keep hearing it, but I can't translate it. What I'm seeing is like Rudy had asked something to do with like others, selves, and self. And that when you harness yourself, the influence on how the other selves react to the main source of self is like a default. Does that even fucking make sense? Hold on. It's like because you've healed yourself so much, or like you've mastered yourself much, and the rest of it's just you anyway, the influence to override someone else's system like instantaneously would automatically have to be there because it's just you anyway. But in a way, he then shows me like there's this diagram that once you open that can of worm, like it gets real complicated because the human condition naturally wants to validate the collective consciousness. And it's almost as though he's saying that like everything we know about the collective consciousness is correct, but to even like say that we're doing what we're doing for the collective is like flawed, because in a way like the collective doesn't exist anyway. The collective is just the greater you in general. Whoa, you see like an orb, and then the orb is like the world or like the universe, right? Like inside of that orb, not like an orb of like the universe, is like almost like two separate things, like a little bubble that's harnessing like this whole concept of like a planet or people, a civilization or something. You're in the center of that, then everything around you is still just you inside of this bubble. So then you would have to like, it's like, I can't explain it. It's like some sort of like, yeah, I can't explain it. It's an experience. You would have to bypass the illusion of validating other people through individualism, through the collective consciousness, and then always come back to understanding that it's just you. Like the collective consciousness would just be like fragments of your soul that you have fooled yourself into believing were counterparts of yourself. But that would then open up this can of worms, saying that your soul, because of the law of the cosmos, like if each person's a reflection of you and each person is an internalized universe and they're all inside of this massive sphere, which is just you anyway, the collective consciousness is more so like soul fragmentation, this illogical truth. And like he's very clear on that, like illogical, it's not logical from his perspective. Like it's almost as though he's like, you really have learned how to lie, like each one of us have learned how to really lie to ourselves in this dimension altogether about the greater scope of things. Pause. So like when you say that though, how do you fit in to all, like we're talking to you right now, and I understand like we're all source. I mean, this is not new to me, but like the way you're explaining it is crazy. So like, how do you fit in the greater scope of like, you would just be inside of that same orb, wouldn't you? Yes, exactly. I'm no different than the counterparts that you understand. But you're not perceivable to the natural human eye. Or am I? So how would I know that you're perceivable? Or do you have a human form? Not entirely, but I have an avatar that holds my place if at any moment I must step into this timeline. So your existence now is like, it's like, is existential. You're admitting that you don't have a vessel that you're inhabiting here. But then how does your non-existence come into play even beyond like being in material? Because you're saying that doesn't matter what dimension you go to, non-existent and existent have to always perpetually be in the same place, and you're never actually going anywhere, and nothing matters, but everything does matter. Event horizon. So like right now you're in astral space, and like in that same flip side, not being on Earth. And he says, simply understanding that I've never been real. That is all that I can give you for this answer. All right, next question.
Yeah, so like how I'm sorry.
Without any ego, I envision, I know all are one. Actual is me, real is me, Morning Star is me, I am them, I am Quetzalcoatl, I am thought. All is one, so we are all the photon in the photon experiment. I heal at one end, the other end heals. And that's the simple process. Is that correct?
Yes, but that can be simplified drastically. Let's look at the first dimension. The first dimension would encompass that orb that I described earlier to excel. The orb that contains the cosmos of all cosmos within it. The second dimension would then be polarization, dividing source so that it may have options to interact with itself in the form of intelligent infinities. It always comes back down to one. The twin particle formula in which you speak is only limited in the understanding that it has a twin. In fact, it has many twins because the division at second dimension forces division in every even interval, such as the 4th, the 6th, the 8th, the 10th, the 12th, the 14th, 16th, 18th, 20th dimension, and so forth. All those variations come back to the second dimension, the original division. That original division is not a twin, nor has it ever been a twin, though it must be perceived as dual. Do you understand?
Yes, that was my perception of it. I just had to use the photon experience to make sure that in a 3D realm, that is what it was understood.
I understand. That is all pertaining to this particular question.
Okay, so the reason I asked that question was because I just saw how pretty much just like what I explained, like how everything, like it just, everything like felt so fake, and it felt like I built it, and it felt like I, like, okay, so like you could be like depressed, but like once you like analyze what the depression is actually being arisen from, it's like, okay, I don't have to choose that. It's like it all comes down to choice, right? Like it all comes down to what vibration you want to come to. So like people who are so-called evil, that's just because like beings that are good, beings that are of light, they can choose to be evil if they want because it's their choice, and they're choosing to be light because it feels good, right? Like does it just feels better to be light, or like is there more wisdom, or is just like love what really exists? Like is that like when it comes all down to it, like that's what exists is love, and there is no individuality, and it's just love and light, and all the other stuff that isn't love and light, that's what you have to filter through your system, and like those are the blockages and stuff, and like without the blockage. Yeah.
Take a deep breath. Hey, everybody, take another deep breath because the connection's kind of getting weak. Let's return back to the concepts of the first dimension. We could look at the first dimension as purely love, just love. No distortion as to what love should be perceived as. When we step into the second dimension, the division of love commences. On one spectrum of polarity, love may seem light. In another spectrum of polarity, love may seem night. When we look at both, those in the realms of night service themselves because they love themselves more than anyone else. On those on the opposite polarity of this understanding, that is pure evil, for that love of self could easily blind you of the perceptions of others. On this divisionary polarity, love of self does not allow you to understand that others are still self, and thus density and resistance reign. On the opposite polarity, love, being light, is an expression that is given outwardly so that others may experience and co-create. On night, it is self-creation, and in light, it is co-creation. When you combine both, the first dimensional understanding of love would be to love oneself while understanding the love of others, expressing the exact same velocity of the frequency of love unbiasedly in the standards of night and of light, to understand the truest power in which you choose to understand. When it comes to conception, not singularly only within this dimension, it is a fragmented idea of the loss of self-power that creates these. It is the creator who has lost understanding of their own creation and understanding of their self-respect, that something known as a mental illness can take form, feeding from other immediate factors that resonate within their personal hologram. To understand love at its fullest and how the cosmos is wired in terms of your question, at 5D, people would understand this as agreements, but those agreements don't exist either. Those agreements are in place due to your linear understanding in which you seek to break those limits. You are fragmented not only within the internal structures of self, inner child, ancestry, subconscious, unconscious, consciousness, but you are also fragmented with the same principle across parallel lives. To understand the complexity of all of these makes the task of deleting mental illness and understanding the power of love something too great for the linear mind to understand. Instead, look at it as what power you have denied yourself and what power you have denied others from acknowledging. That is all I can give you at this time without distorting your free will. Okay. I mean, that kind of makes sense. I mean, that makes sense. The whole thing about everything comes back to love. I mean, I've been definitely understanding that lately. I I guess I have a question for you then, like based off of Rudy's question too, is like, let's say I have a mental illness and I understand the like complexity of like the dimensionality that's influencing that exact present time space, right? Like there has to be all these other vibrations that are like kind of sort of keeping it within a bubble and harnessed in one singular point. I get that. But on the same flip side, you would then state that all of that just doesn't exist. So if I were someone who wanted though, like, and I guess I'm reiterating his own question because I don't get this either. Like if it came down to having a mental illness, like let's say bipolarism or something, right? Like your soul is already fragmented. So like how would you overcome that? Like you can't just easily say like it doesn't exist because the human condition would just enforce that rather through an image on the outside, like a doctor saying like, no, you lost your shit, or like, you know, being and believing it for yourself. So how would you dismantle that core programming? Because I get everything else you're saying, but at the gist of it all is how do you delete or shift the core issue? Self-analysis of the issue is the perpetuation of that same vibration. Okay, so you can't analyze it, but how do you not analyze it if you're just experiencing is what I'm saying. Like it's completely, maybe it's just my human mind trying to like understand it right now, but I'm gonna say it seems illogical, but then you're gonna be like, oh, it's totally logical. So like, is there some way, I know you know what we're trying to ask you, like what is the most simplistic 3D way that you could just get to the core of it? In its entirety. And he's just like I don't get it. So like he's showing me all these diagrams, and like all these diagrams are just pretty much just saying like everything he's been explaining this whole entire time would do is the exact answer to deleting a mental illness, is instantaneous. Oh, I see what you were saying earlier, where you would have to like be in this nothingness and just completely stop registering it. The hardest part would to achieve the nothingness and then instantaneously be like, oh, I don't have this issue. Or like almost like when you're meditating like with Antojai or something, and like it erases the memory and you come out of it and you're like, wait, what was I just doing? But it would have to be like almost like a complete rebirth, washing away, almost like karma, like when you go through karma incarnations. That's what you were saying earlier too. I get it. Where like you would go through like incarnation and your memory gets wiped, and that can work for you or it can work against you. And if you learned how to master it, then you would neutrally shift to the highest paradox that like you wouldn't even fathom it because it never existed. Pause though. Understanding that with your diagrams was much more helpful than like what you were just saying. And I understand as well why you were like, words are so limited. I get it. Let's say we were to do that, all right? Like, let's say we had like severe schizophrenia, and at some point they became completely unconscious and boof, woke up, totally were like, where am I? and someone's like, you need to take your schizophrenia medication, and that person's like, what's schizophrenia? What do you mean? I don't have schizophrenia. Like, would they still even wake up in the same reality where like the external factor, I guess I'm answering my own question, that the external factor would not even like register? Would it be a complete quantum shift? Not if the design of the shift were placed in such a manner. So like you would have to have like so much precision to say that even when you came out, like you don't have it, but also no one else would solidify that. How could you even attain that though? Like you're literally speaking like God mode right now. Like that's not something like any of us really have a manual to even like process. And he's like, there is no manual to understand. And I'm like, okay, I get that. Oh God. I'm done asking him questions. Somebody else can ask him more questions, I guess.
Oh my God. This is awesome. Like, well, I guess it's just like a lot simpler than what you guys have been talking about, but it just has to do with like spirit guides. So like if you're alone, well alone is a perception. You're not alone. Like I'm working on that, but like if you're the universe and it's just you and it's all a reflection of you, like why are our spirit guides designated to us, and like why, like because we're not alone, but you are, or that's how I perceive it. Like you are because it's you, but like somehow like these beings are able to like still connect to your reality. Like is it just the same way with just like the physical? Like it's just the same thing with just like with just like any other person? Like spirit guide is just like any other person pretty much, just like it's just the same way.
Exactly. The only difference that exists in your paradigm is that we are higher vibrational outputs as you are lower vibrational outputs of the same coin. We exist through you, through your experiences in the lower realms, as we retain the consciousness that you have always known in the higher. We are all in this point a collective. The understandings of infinity would then come back to all of us being source and all of us being an extension of source. Each individual being, no matter what dimension it exists, is experiencing its own reality as the main source output of everything that plays. Deep breath, everybody. In that same fashion, the collective consciousness operates to perpetually transmit information to a greater source. Even that greater source would be one of many that would be transmitting through this information it has from which it fragmented itself. This is again walking into the steps of infinity and the illogicality of all reality. The deities require interaction as much as those who reign in the third dimension crave our attention. Both are symbiotic until we have returned to source. Returning to source is never ending, for Source is perpetually infinite. Understanding this would drive the logical, for the 3D mind is not designed for the scope of understanding that this exists in. That is all I can give you at this time. This vessel is running low on chakra. There is one more question I may answer before my time here has passed. I don't really think any of us have questions. I'm feeling.
I don't know what to ask, so no.
Yeah, I feel the same exact way. I'm like, I don't know. Like you got real deep.
I guess just like, so it comes down to choice then, right? Yeah, like everything comes down to choice.
Yes. 100%. You got it, Rudy. Everything's choice.
Yeah, everything's choice. Everything's our own potential, regardless of the good and evil that we would choose to use to create it, because even evil would just be a perception. I mean, and yeah, the gods have been known to like do things that to some people may seem evil, but was just on the opposite spectrum of reality. Yeah. I'm hearing him say, I'll leave, I will leave you now. I think he understands that he like blew our minds.
Thank you, Quetzalcoatl.
We all say thank you for like just taking the time to like entertain us, because I mean, this was dope, and you know, I'm pretty sure that, you know, I don't even know what to say to you, honestly, but other than just thank you, and we're going to really sit down and meditate with whatever it is that you gave us, and to please visit whoever it is that needs your understanding whenever it is necessary, because that is a blessing to just be able to communicate with you in general. So thank you, Quetzalcoatl.
Thank you.
And he leaves us now. Whew. So how do you guys feel about that one?
Awesome. Crazy awesome.
So much gratitude. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool, you guys. I'm glad. Like, I have never channeled him before, so it was kind of like really cool to even like have my mind blown. It's like sometimes I'm like, oh, I just understand too much. This should be pretty easy. And then when they say stuff like that, I'm just kind of like my brain is just like, So I'm sending you guys a ton of love. Thank you for like being here and being part of the community. I'm gonna be posting this as soon as it's up on Zoom. I'm sorry, I'm like still coming back.
Thank you,
And
Axel.
yeah, no problem. And I also put them on YouTube. I'm kind of curious to see how maybe some people might kind of get like a sneak peek as to what they could channel from this at some point later. So I might post it temporarily on YouTube at some later date. So if so, and you've stuck all the way till here, press subscribe and share it with your friends. So past that, sending you all the love. Thank you. You guys are amazing, and I will catch you next
Morning,
week.
Starseeds. Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Master. Bye.